Hi, my name is Alex. I want to tell you a story about how I nearly wasted my life, how I noticed I was wasting it, and what I did to stop. I'm not preaching. I'm just one man talking, honest, a little embarrassed, and maybe a little proud now. If any part of this feels familiar, good. That means you're already halfway there. When I was younger, I thought wasting time meant doing nothing at all. I pictured a lazy person lying on a couch, remote in hand, the TV blaring, days melting into each other. That image is real for some people. But for a long time, I was wasting my life in a quieter, sneakier way, filling it with things that felt like living, but weren't. Busy work dressed up as productivity, waiting for the right moment. Chasing other people's definitions of success, complaining without changing anything, doing the comfortable thing again and again and calling it rest. This is not a dramatic confession. There were no cinematic breakups or wild epiphanies. The turning point arrived in small, sharp moments that kept repeating until I couldn't ignore them. The first was a photo album, my mother's actually. She handed me a stack of old pictures at dinner, and I saw my own face at 22 full of plans I didn't remember making. There was a look in my younger eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. Curiosity, impatience, fire. I realized I'd let other people rewrite my script. Then there was a conversation with a friend I hadn't seen in a year. He said casually, "Man, I read your old blog posts the other day. You were actually dreaming big." Then I was embarrassed. I had dreams, and I'd quietly swapped them for safer choices. A job that paid the bills but drained me. A relationship I kept because we were comfortable, and hobbies that never became skills because I only dabbled. I was busy, but I wasn't creating anything meaningful for myself. That's the cruelty of a wasted life. It doesn't always scream, it whispers. It has manners. It convinces you every day that nothing needs to change. It's the slow erosion of possibility. If I had to boil down the truth I learned into one sentence, it would be, you don't notice you're wasting your life until the small, repeated decisions add up to a life you don't recognize. So you have to pay attention to the small decisions. Here's what I found, how I changed, and, most importantly, how you can too, without drama or magic. I'll tell it like it happened to me, and then I'll be practical and granular about the steps that actually worked. The early years, steady slide, comfortable voice, I wasn't reckless. My life was reasonable. I got a decent degree. I found a steady job. I paid rent. I dated. I traveled sometimes. People said, "You're doing well, Alex." And that phrase, "doing well," started to feel like a gentle trap. There were warning signs I ignored, the small creative projects I never finished, the ideas I would mention and then bury, the one day that became 1 year. I collected hobbies but never committed. I told myself I needed more time, more money, a safer cushion. The truth was simpler. I was avoiding the risk of failing at something I actually cared about. Years are slippery. They pass while you allocate attention to urgent small fires instead of important deep work. Between work emails, social media, quick pleasures, and exhaustion, I had traded depth for surface. The worst part was that these choices often felt noble. I had responsibilities, I was practical, I was realistic. Those are words people use to defend complacency. Then one slow evening, after scrolling through other people's lives, wondering why none of my thumbnails felt remotely like mine, I admitted aloud to myself, I'm wasting my life. Saying it was humiliating, but it also felt like taking off a weighted coat on a hot day. The admission stripped away excuses and left a small, fierce possibility. Change. The pivot. Small experiments, Stubborn curiosity. Real change didn't happen overnight. I started with experiments, tiny, ridiculous commitments to prove to myself I could do things differently. First experiment: one meaningful sentence a day. I committed to writing one honest sentence every day on the subjects I cared about. Not a manifesto, just one sentence. Some days it was simple. I missed the way I used to learn things. Other days it grew into a paragraph, then a short essay. That one sentence a day became a writing habit that reminded me I had something to say. Second experiment: learning with focus. Instead of sampling a dozen hobbies, I picked one skill I wanted: storytelling. I read books, watched craft lectures, practiced for short bursts. Focus felt like oxygen. I discovered that consistency beats intensity. 10 minutes daily turned into 1 hour every few days, and months later, I could see progress. Third experiment: practicing uncomfortable honesty. I started saying no more often, to events that drained me, to tasks that padded someone else's to-do list at my expense. Saying no is a muscle. It's also a way to reclaim time and attention. These small experiments built momentum. They also taught me a crucial lesson. You can't rearrange a life on a whim. You rearrange it by changing the patterns that produce the life. Understanding the traps, why time slips away. If you want to stop wasting your life, you need to understand the common patterns that create a life of drift. I'll list the traps I fell into and give a short explanation of how they operate. The one-day trap. You tell yourself, I'll start when I have more time, money, confidence. That day rarely comes. One day is a procrastination disguise. It preserves safety while promising a future reward that never arrives. The busy trap. Being busy is a status symbol. Urgent things feel productive, but urgency is a poor compass for meaning. I spent years firefighting without building anything that mattered to me. The comparison trap. Social feeds are highlight reels. Comparing yourself to curated images makes you feel behind. The result? Low-grade anxiety and more passive consumption. The identity trap. You adopt identities that limit you. I'm not creative. I'm a practical person. I'm just not lucky. Identity is a story you tell. You can edit it. The comfort trap. Comfort dulls edge. The safe choice keeps you from learning hard things. Growth requires short-term discomfort. The sunk cost trap. You keep doing things because you already invested time and energy, even if the thing no longer serves you. Sunk cost thinking keeps lives chained to past decisions. The approval trap. You make choices to please others or avoid their disappointment. That diffuses your life steering wheel. Recognizing these traps doesn't magically fix them, but names help. Once you can see a pattern, you can design an antidote. How I redesigned my life. Practical, concrete, and gentle. I don't believe in sudden reinventions. I believe in steady pruning and intentional planting. Here are the exact steps I took. If you like, try them as experiments. You don't need permission. You don't need to tell anyone. Just start. Do a small audit for 3 days. Track where your attention goes. Not obsessively, just note the big buckets. Work, family, scrolling, commuting, chores, sleep, personal projects. This isn't about guilt. It's about visibility. When a pattern gets noticed, it can be changed. Identify 2 anchors. Pick 2 things that will become non-negotiable, one related to creating, writing, building, practicing a skill, and one related to caring, exercise, sleep, relationships. Make them tiny so they won't be skipped. For me it was, Write one sentence daily, creating and walk after dinner, caring. Tiny anchors protect the rest of your day. Define what not wasting means for you. This is personal. For me, it meant building an inner life that matched my outward life. Practicing craft, stopping the automatic sacrifice of my curiosity, and choosing deeper relationships. Ask, what would make you look back without regret? List the top 3 answers. Make time by subtracting. You create time by saying no. Identify one thing you can stop doing that frees meaningful attention. Maybe it's a recurring meeting, scrolling before bed, or doom-scrolling news. Replace that slot with your tiny anchor. Build habits by repetition, not willpower. Start tiny. If you want to read more, start with 1 page a night. If you want to learn a language, practice 1 10-minute module daily. When habit is wired, scale up. There's a magic in completing projects. Even small projects build confidence. Pick one small project you can finish in 2 weeks and finish it. The momentum is contagious. Use constraints like a designer. Constraints force creativity. Set a limit. Write a 500-word essay every week for 12 weeks. Or cook 5 new recipes in a month. Constraints make choices clearer. Find a mentor or a mirror. You don't always need advice. Sometimes you just need feedback. A mentor shows what's possible. A mirror, an honest friend, shows where you're hiding. Both are precious. Reframe failure as information. The fear of failure makes people cling to bland safety. Failures are experiments. Analyze them, extract the lesson, then try again. Reconnect to purpose with questions. Ask yourself, if I had 5 years left, what would I regret not trying? If I had 5 months, what would I do today? These thought experiments accelerate clarity. Invest in relationships that elevate you. People shape your possible life. If the people around you are passive, your ambitions will atrophy. Gravitate toward curiosity, generosity, and people who finish things. Protect your mornings in a way that feels human. Don't buy into perfect morning routines. Just pick one simple, life-affirming thing. Reading, writing, stretching. That signals, I'm steering today. Build rituals to mark progress. Rituals are tiny celebrations that help you internalize growth. When I finished a small writing project, I'd brew a special cup of tea and jot one lesson learned. The ritual made progress stick. Practice saying no kindly. You can decline without burning bridges. A simple script. Thanks for thinking of me. I can't commit right now because I'm focusing on X short, honest, respectful. Keep a weekly review. Set aside a short moment each week. It can be part of an evening. To reflect. What went well? What drained you? What's one tiny thing you'll do next week? That weekly nudges you forward without drama. Stories of small changes that matter. I want to share 2 short episodes that show how these things added up for me. Episode 1. The hobby that became a source of income. I loved photography in a casual way for years. I took pictures on vacation and called it memory keeping. After my small experiments, I picked photography as one focused hobby. I committed to taking 1 roll of shots, metaphorically, each weekend, not obsessing, just practicing. As months passed, my eye improved. I started selling 1 or 2 prints online. That small revenue didn't solve my life, but it validated the process. Focused practice produces value. Episode 2. The relationship that got honest. I had a relationship that felt safe, but static. I told my partner I needed to change, and I also told them I didn't expect them to follow. It was terrifying, to be honest. The result? We had better conversations, and the relationship either upgraded into a partnership with shared growth or it gently ended. Either way, I felt more like myself. Honesty is expensive in the short term, but freeing in the long run. What success meant after I stopped wasting my life. Early on, my definition of success was conventional. A certain job title, a certain income bracket, a certain social status. After paying attention, success became quieter and truer, waking with energy for things I chose, finishing what I start, having relationships that mattered, and building a small body of work I could point to and say, that was mine. I still want to do big things. I still have days of doubt. But the difference now is intention. When I choose a project, I do it with my attention. When I say no, I mean it. When I rest, it's not avoidance, it's restoration. Practical exercises you can do tonight. No drama. If you want 3 simple things to try tonight, no overhaul, just immediate, useful steps, try this trio. The 10-question list. Write answers to these 10 quick questions. Keep each answer to 1 sentence. What would I regret not trying if I had 1 year left? What small thing scares me that I can try this month? What have I been saying one day about? What drains me every week? Who makes me feel more alive? What skill do I want to be known for? What project could I finish in 2 weeks? What can I stop doing tomorrow? What small habit would improve my health or focus? What would make me proud next year? The tiny commitment. Pick one of your answers and make a tiny commitment. 1 page, 1 short practice, 1 conversation. Do it tomorrow. The honest conversation. Schedule 1 conversation this week with someone who matters, not to vent, but to say something honest about your direction. I'm trying X is enough. Gentle, urgent, hopeful. There's something beautiful and a little wild about the fact that our days add up to a life. That accumulation can be frightening. One day you look back and wonder where the years went. Or it can be thrilling. Each small, intentional choice stacks into something real. Don't waste your life is not a demand to chase peak experiences or grind 24/7. That's another kind of waste. It's an invitation to remove the autopilot. Pay attention to how you spend your attention. Make a few small, kind commitments to the things that matter. Finish more things. Be kinder in the decisions you make about your time. Say no without apology to things that drain you. Say yes to small practices that, over years, will quietly change who you are. One man talking, me, learned this by doing tiny, stubborn things over long stretches, by failing and trying again, by being honest with the people I love, and by finally giving my curiosity the small, regular room it needed to grow. If you've read this far, maybe something landed. Maybe you feel a little breathless thinking of lists you've already made and forgotten. That's normal. Start tiny. Start tonight with 1 sentence, 1 small practice, or 1 honest conversation. Tell me what you try. I'll tell you mine. We'll both keep showing up. Because wasting a life doesn't happen in a day. Saving one doesn't either. It's the same thing, done differently. Small decisions, repeated with attention. After I made those first small changes, something unexpected happened. I realized that the fear of wasting my life never really disappears. It just changes shape. At first, it was the fear of drifting and doing nothing meaningful. Later, when I started to take action, the fear transformed into, what if I'm still not doing enough? What if I'm on the wrong path? And that's when I learned another truth. Wasting your life is not about making a wrong choice. It's about refusing to choose at all. Action, even imperfect, is better than sitting in hesitation. I'll tell you about 3 more moments that shaped me. Moment 1. The funeral. I went to a distant relative's funeral. I didn't know him well, but as people stood up to speak, I noticed something. No one mentioned his job title, his income, his possessions. They spoke about how he showed up for people, how he encouraged, how he laughed. That day hit me hard. I asked myself, if I died tomorrow, what would people actually say about me? Would they remember the hours I spent at a desk, or the nights I scrolled endlessly, or the projects I never dared to finish? Probably not. They'd remember how I made them feel, and whether I was alive in my own choices. I went home and wrote in my journal, I want to live in such a way that people can tell real stories about me when I'm gone. That became a compass. Moment 2. The wasted weekend. One Saturday I promised myself I'd work on a personal project. Instead, I stayed in bed, watched random videos, ordered food, and told myself, tomorrow I'll start. By Sunday night, I felt heavy and disappointed, but here's what I did differently. Instead of beating myself up, I wrote down exactly how I felt, the emptiness, the regret. Then I asked, do I really want to feel this way next weekend? The answer was no. So the next weekend, I made one clear plan, 2 hours of focused work on my project, and then I could relax, guilt-free. That small structure turned wasted weekends into building blocks for something bigger. Moment 3. The stranger on the train. I was sitting on a train, tired, when an older man sat beside me. He looked worn out, but we started talking. He told me, I worked 35 years in the same job. I don't regret providing for my family. But if I'm honest, I regret never writing the book I dreamed of. Now my eyesight is bad, my energy is low, and I know I'll never do it. His words hit like a hammer. Here was a living reminder of what happens when you postpone dreams forever. I promised myself I wouldn't let that happen to me. From these moments, I understood. Life will always tempt us to drift. But you can build guardrails, habits, rituals, and honest conversations that keep you on the path you truly want. I also learned that not wasting your life doesn't mean working every minute. It means aligning what you do with what you value. Rest is not waste if it restores you. Play is not waste if it nourishes you. Even small joys matter when they're chosen, not just default distractions. So now let me share a more personal part of my journey, how my relationships changed once I decided to stop wasting time. Before, I kept people around me out of habit. Friends I only saw because of convenience. Conversations that stayed shallow because I was afraid of opening up. But when I started living more intentionally, I noticed something. The wrong people drain you. The right people light you up. I made a rule for myself. Spend more time with people who inspire me, even if it's uncomfortable, and less time with people who pull me down, even if it's convenient. One of the best changes I ever made was starting weekly dinners with 2 close friends. We agreed. No phones on the table, no small talk for too long, just real conversation. We talked about goals, fears, and silly dreams. Those dinners became fuel for my growth. It wasn't about advice. It was about accountability and connection. At the same time, I had to let go of some relationships. Not with anger, just with honesty. I told a few friends, I care about you, but I need to focus on a different direction right now. It wasn't easy, but it freed both sides. Another big shift came with how I used my mornings. I used to wake up late, rush, check my phone first thing, and feel behind all day. Now, I do one simple thing. I spend 10 minutes without screens. Sometimes I write. Sometimes I stretch. Sometimes I just sit with tea. That small ritual makes me feel like the day belongs to me, not to the world. It's not about being perfect or following some influencer's 5 a.m. miracle routine. It's about claiming your own start to the day. And slowly, I noticed something beautiful. Life felt lighter. I wasn't haunted by the thought of someday anymore. I was living pieces of it now. Of course, I still slip. I still waste hours. I still procrastinate. I still fall into comfort traps. But now, I catch myself sooner. And when I do, I remind myself of the stranger on the train, or the funeral speeches, or the wasted weekend. I ask, is this how I want my story told? And then I get back on track. My friend, if you take only one thing from my story, let it be this. A wasted life isn't one without fame or riches. A wasted life is one where you ignore what matters most to you. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for permission. Don't let years slip into decades of maybe later. Start small. Start today. Write the sentence. Take the walk. Have the honest talk. Plant the seed. Because one day, you and I will both be stories told by others. Let's give them stories worth telling. After those realizations, I started to see how fragile life really is. You know, we talk about time as if it's unlimited. We say, I'll do it later. I have plenty of years ahead. But the truth is, nobody knows how much time they actually have. One day, I was sitting in a park, just watching people. A little boy was running around laughing so loudly that even strangers smiled. His parents were sitting nearby, smiling too, and I thought, that's real living. Laughter, presence, love. But right next to them, I noticed an older man sitting alone on a bench. His shoulders were hunched, his face looked tired, and he just kept staring at the ground. He looked like a man carrying a lifetime of regrets. For some reason, I couldn't stop watching him. My mind kept whispering, don't end up like that, Alex. Don't be someone who looks back wishing for a second chance. That moment was simple, but it hit me harder than any motivational speech ever could. Facing regret. Regret is one of the most painful feelings. And do you know what I discovered? Regret rarely comes from what we tried and failed. Regret almost always comes from what we never tried. When I was younger, I thought failure was the worst outcome. But actually, failure teaches, heals, grows you. Regret just eats you from the inside because you'll never know what could have been. I remembered my dream of writing a book. For years, I told myself, I'll write when I'm ready. I'll write when I have more time. But the truth was, I was scared. I was scared of writing something bad, of being judged, of proving to myself that maybe I wasn't good enough. But when I thought about regret, I realized even a badly written book is better than the book that never exists. So I started writing again, slowly, awkwardly, with terrible drafts at first. But I kept going, and every time I sat to write, I felt alive. Not because it was perfect, but because I wasn't wasting myself anymore. How wasting life creeps. In the more I paid attention, the more I noticed how life gets wasted in little ways. It's not just laziness. In fact, most people aren't lazy. It's that we misplace our attention. We waste life by living for approval instead of truth. We waste life by saying yes to everything except ourselves. We waste life by numbing with distractions instead of facing discomfort. We waste life by chasing what looks impressive instead of what feels meaningful. The scary part? These choices don't feel like wasting. They feel normal, safe, polite, and that's why so many people don't wake up until it's too late. Relationships, the mirror of life. Another area where I realized I was wasting my life was in relationships. I had friendships that were shallow, just about drinking, gossiping, or passing time, and I had a romantic relationship that felt more like convenience than love. One night, I asked myself, if I keep living like this for the next 10 years, will I feel fulfilled? The answer was no. So I made a difficult decision. I let go of the relationship. I didn't do it out of anger, but out of honesty. I said, we're comfortable, but we're not growing. And I don't want to wake up 10 years from now feeling empty beside someone I settled for. That decision hurt, but it also freed me. It taught me that wasting your life isn't just about how you spend your time. It's also about who you spend it with. You see, the wrong people keep you small. The right people pull you higher. After that, I started seeking out relationships where I felt inspired, challenged, encouraged. It wasn't about quantity anymore. I didn't need 100 friends. I just needed a few who made me feel alive. The power of small moments. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is this. You don't need to do grand, dramatic things to stop wasting your life. It's about the small, consistent choices. Choosing to read a book instead of scrolling. Choosing to call your parents and say, I love you. Choosing to take a walk in the fresh air instead of lying in bed for another hour. Choosing to try something new, even if you look silly at first. Choosing to rest when you need it, instead of pretending you're fine. Those little choices seem tiny, but they build a different kind of life. One you won't regret later. The day I said no more. There was one day that became a turning point for me. I was sitting at my desk at work, staring at a spreadsheet that meant nothing to me. I had been doing that kind of work for years. My heart wasn't in it. My dreams were outside that office, gathering dust. I looked at my hands on the keyboard and thought, is this really what I want to spend the only life I'll ever have doing? That day, I promised myself, I will not let the safe, empty version of life win. Even if it takes me years to change everything, I will not waste myself. And slowly, I began to reshape my life. Lessons that stick. Looking back, here are the truths that guide me now. Start small, but start. Waiting for the perfect time is the biggest waste. Protect your attention. Where your attention goes, your life goes. Value relationships, love, friendship, family. These are what make life rich. Choose depth over noise. Don't just stay busy, stay meaningful. Be honest with yourself. Lies to yourself waste years. Don't fear failure. Fear regret instead. Now, my days are not perfect. I still waste time sometimes. I still procrastinate. But the difference is, I'm awake now. I catch myself, and I redirect. I forgive myself and keep moving forward. And you know what? Life feels more alive, more colorful, more mine. My dear friend, I'll say it again. Don't waste your life. Not in small ways, not in big ways. It's the one thing you can't get back. Spend it on what matters. Because one day you'll sit on a bench like that old man I saw. And when you look back, I want you and me to smile, not to regret. The weight of expectations. When I started making changes, not everyone understood. My family, for example, had their own expectations. I grew up in a household where stability was worshipped. A secure job, a regular paycheck, a respectable lifestyle. That was the dream my parents had for me. So when I started talking about leaving my safe job, writing seriously, and shaping a new path, they worried. My father looked at me and said, "Son, dreams don't pay the bills. Don't risk your future." I understood his fear. He had worked hard his whole life just to give me security. But what he couldn't see was that security without meaning is just another cage. At first, I tried to explain. I tried to convince them. But then I realized I didn't need everyone's approval to live my life. Their love was real, but their vision wasn't mine. And that was another lesson. If you live only for your family's approval, you may secure their smile but lose your own soul. So I promised them, I'll be responsible. I won't be reckless. But please let me try, even if you don't understand right now. It wasn't easy, but slowly, as they saw my passion grow, they began to respect it. Maybe not fully, but enough. The trap of someday. One of the most dangerous words in the world is someday. I used to say it all the time. Someday I'll travel, someday I'll learn guitar, someday I'll write my book, someday I'll live the life I want. But here's the brutal truth. Someday is often just another word for never. I realized that if I didn't break the pattern, I would carry my somedays to my grave. That scared me more than failure ever could. So I made a new rule for myself. If something matters, don't leave it as someday. Put a small piece of it into today. Want to travel? Save a little money this month? Research one trip. Want to learn guitar? Spend 10 minutes strumming, badly, if you must. Want to write? Write one messy page. Life doesn't change through grand declarations. It changes through humble beginnings. Love and connection. Let me talk about love, because it's a big part of not wasting your life. For a long time, I thought love was about finding someone who fit into the life I already had. But real love, I discovered, is about growing together, not just being comfortable together. After leaving that old relationship, I spent some time alone. At first, it was lonely. I questioned myself. What if I never find someone who understands me? But during that season of solitude, I learned something powerful. You must first learn to love your own company before you can truly love someone else. I started taking myself on walks, sitting in cafes with my notebook, enjoying small adventures alone. Slowly, the loneliness turned into freedom. I realized I wasn't incomplete without someone. I was whole, but I wanted to share that wholeness one day. And when I finally met someone new, the connection felt different. There was honesty, growth, encouragement. We didn't just pass time, we built each other. That's another truth. Don't waste your life in a relationship that keeps you stagnant. Choose someone who pushes you to live fully and do the same for them. The battle with procrastination. Let me confess, even after deciding not to waste my life, procrastination haunted me. Sometimes I'd plan a big day of writing or learning, only to lose hours scrolling, watching, distracting, and then the guilt would creep in. You said you wouldn't waste time anymore, Alex. Why are you still stuck? But instead of hating myself, I tried a new approach. Gentleness. I told myself, okay, you wasted today, but tomorrow, just do one thing, not 10. 1. That simple forgiveness saved me. Because the truth is, life will always tempt us with easy distractions. But wasting your life isn't about never slipping. It's about refusing to stay stuck when you slip. Now, whenever I catch myself drifting, I whisper, return, just return. And I do one small thing to pull myself back on track. Work that matters. Leaving my old job was scary. People said I was foolish. Why give up security? They asked. But I knew the bigger risk was giving up my life. I didn't quit recklessly. I saved money, made a plan, and then stepped out. At first, I freelanced. The income was unstable. There were nights I lay awake worrying. But the freedom to work on things that mattered, writing, creating, teaching, filled me with energy I never had before. Slowly, opportunities grew. Not because I was special, but because I showed up consistently. That's the secret. The world rewards those who show up daily for what matters, even if they're clumsy at first. Now, when I work, I feel alive. Not every moment is glamorous. There's still stress, deadlines, and failures. But underneath it all, there's meaning. And meaning is worth every challenge. The gift of time. One thing I remind myself often is this: time is the most valuable currency we have. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose opportunities and find new ones. But time? Once it's gone, it never returns. That's why wasting your life isn't about being lazy. It's about spending your time on things that don't matter to you. So, I started asking myself one simple question every day. If today was my last, would I be okay with how I spent it? Of course, not every day can be extraordinary. But if the answer is no, too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Looking ahead. Now, I live with a new mindset. I want to die empty. That means I want to pour out every gift, every idea, every dream before my time is up. I don't want to hoard them. I don't want to die with my music still inside me. So every day, I try to give a little, through writing, through kindness, through creating, through love. Because in the end, the only wasted life is the one you kept locked inside yourself. My friend, I've shared a lot already, but there's still more to tell.